What drives a soul to defy its creator? What is the force that can bend the will of a human being born in innocence to seek what is forbidden? This is a story as old as time, yet its echoes still reach us today. The book of Genesis reveals a dramatic encounter between innocence and temptation, a story that goes beyond the Garden of Eden. It's a reflection of human nature, of the eternal battle between obedience and desire. Today, we delve into the narrative of the first sin, the moment when Eve, deceived by the cunning serpent, took a bite of the forbidden fruit. This was the beginning of humanity's most significant downfall, a story that would shape the destiny of all humankind. Join us as we explore what truly happened in the Garden of Eden, the consequences that followed, and the eternal message that still calls out to us. The Garden of Eden, the perfection of creation. The Garden of Eden was not merely a physical place, it was the ultimate expression of God's love and creativity. Every flower bloomed in perfect harmony, every tree bore fruit of exquisite taste, and the rivers flowed with crystal clear waters, untouched by corruption. In this paradise, Adam and Eve, the first humans, lived without shame, without fear, without sin. They knew God not only as creator, but as a friend who walked with them daily in the coolness of the garden's breeze. They were free, truly free. Yet with freedom came a choice, and in the center of the garden, that choice took form in the shape of two trees, the tree of life, which promised eternity, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, shrouded in mystery and warning. The fruit of the latter was not evil in itself, but it represented a boundary, a line that was never meant to be crossed. God's command was simple and clear. You may eat freely from every tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat from it, you will surely die. This was not a mere prohibition, it was an invitation to trust. Trust that God, in His infinite wisdom, knew what was best. The tree was a test, not of obedience alone, but of love and loyalty. The beginning of temptation, the serpent's approach. But there was another presence in the garden, a presence that sought to undermine the purity of God's creation. The serpent, the most cunning of all creatures, had watched Adam and Eve from the shadows. She was waiting for the perfect moment to strike, a moment when Eve was alone, her guard down, and her curiosity burning just enough. The serpent approached, not with force, but with words, gentle, deceptive, and alluring. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The question was not innocent. It was a seed of doubt, carefully planted, suggesting that God's motives might not be as pure as they seemed. Could it be that God was withholding something good from them? Eve was startled, not by the serpent's presence, but by the cunning nature of her words. The serpent's question was not an outright denial, but a gentle twist, a subtle insinuation that God's command was unfair. Eve responded by recounting God's command, but now doubt had begun to take root. She wondered, why would God forbid us from this knowledge? The serpent's eyes gleamed, seeing that the door to Eve's heart was now ajar. Doubt and desire, the tension grows. The serpent's voice grew bolder. Her words, like honey, dripped with promises of power and enlightenment. You will not certainly die, she said with a voice that was almost a whisper, yet carried a weight that pulled at Eve's deepest desires. God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The promise of becoming like God, to have wisdom, understanding, and power beyond anything she had known, intensified Eve's inner turmoil. Her gaze fell upon the fruit, which now seemed more beautiful, more desirable, and more important than ever. Eve's heart raced. The fruit, which once seemed insignificant, now held an irresistible allure. She wondered what it would feel like to have her eyes opened, to understand the mysteries of good and evil, to possess a knowledge reserved only for the divine. She looked around. Adam was nowhere in sight, and the moment of decision was upon her. With trembling hands, she reached out. It was not a simple act of disobedience, but a shift in allegiance, a choice to believe the words of the serpent over the command of her Creator. The fall and its aftermath, the shattered trust. Eve's fingers wrapped around the fruit, and for a moment, time itself seemed to stand still. She took a bite, and immediately something inside her changed, a sensation of awareness, an awakening that came not with joy, but with a deep, sinking feeling. She had crossed the line. She had chosen to seek wisdom on her own terms apart from God. Yet, in her confusion, she turned to Adam, who stood beside her. Without a word, she handed him the fruit, and he too ate. Their eyes were opened, but not to divine wisdom. Instead, they saw their nakedness, vulnerability, and the fragility of their own souls. Their innocence was shattered. The purity they once shared was replaced by a new awareness, a knowledge tainted by shame, guilt, and fear. They quickly covered themselves with fig leaves, hiding not only their bodies but also their newly exposed souls. The echo of that bite still resonates today, a symbol of humanity's eternal struggle with the allure of autonomy, the desire to define right and wrong for oneself, and the consequences that follow when we stray from God's will. Divine confrontation and the consequences of sin. The serene atmosphere of Eden was replaced by tension and dread. God's voice echoed through the garden, "Where are you?" It wasn't a question of location, but of relationship. Adam and Eve, hiding among the trees, felt the weight of their disobedience. When they finally stepped forward, their excuses revealed the depth of the rupture. Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. Sin had not only broken their trust in God, but it also shattered their trust in each other. Judgment followed swiftly. The serpent was cursed to crawl, to be a constant reminder of deception. Eve was condemned to pain in childbirth, a sorrow that would be passed down to every generation. Adam would toil and labor, fighting against the earth to sustain life. But the greatest consequence was their expulsion from the garden. An angel with a flaming sword barred the way back to the tree of life, sealing the fate of humanity, the unbroken hope amidst the fall. Though expelled from Eden, humanity was not abandoned. Even in his judgment, God showed mercy. He made garments of skin to clothe Adam and Eve, covering their shame, a foreshadowing of the ultimate sacrifice that would come thousands of years later. This story is not just about humanity's fall, but about God's relentless pursuit of redemption. The serpent's triumph was temporary, for God's plan of salvation was already in motion, the eternal call of obedience. The story of Eve and the serpent is not merely a tale of ancient history, but a mirror to our own struggles. We are all, at times, like Eve, tempted to listen to the whispers that question God's goodness, to seek wisdom apart from his guidance. Yet the story does not end in despair. The Bible's message is one of hope, a hope that invites us to trust the Creator who never gives up on his creation. The forbidden fruit was not the final word, it was the beginning of a journey that ultimately leads us back to God if we are willing to listen to his voice and obey his call.